Hey everybody, I hope and pray that you're doing well today as we come to our word from the Word. And today that word is search. Search. Now, today as we're in Proverbs chapter 2, this will pick up right where we left off yesterday. Yesterday, Proverbs 1, talking about the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. And so now that was kind of his introduction. And as you come in to chapter 2, we're going to jump right in today and look at the first 5 verses. He says, "My son, if you receive my words and treasure my commands within you, so that you incline your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding. Yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God." See, it's not as though he didn't just start and tell us something yesterday in chapter 1 that he wasn't going to give us any further explanation. He said, "Well, fear of the Lord. Well, how do I get there?" Well, here it's even the same. He says, "Look, if you will continue to search, right now, you think about if you've ever been on a treasure hunt or even just a little game at church with the kids, you do sometimes, or any type of treasure hunt in general. I mean, you see this played out in TV shows all the time, and even game shows, and all these clues that lead to something else. And we know, of course, X marks the spot, right, in every treasure hunt. And so as you go along, it may be thinking you may be thinking, well, how am I ever going to find the knowledge that I need? God's ways are so above mine. We're never going to you say, well, I'm never going to get there. And so we just give up before we ever get started. But if you realize how much of a treasure it is to have the knowledge of God, that's what he's saying. He says you'll seek for it. You'll search for it. You'll ask for it. In James, right, he says you have not because you ask not. And what you do ask for, you ask amiss. But earlier there in James 2, in the first chapter, he also says, look, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. And he gives liberally. In other words, he gives plenty. He's not going to be stingy with it. But we've got to take that first step. We've got to want to. We've got to have that desire. And it starts, as we talked about yesterday, it starts with fear of the Lord. But then today, did you notice the couple of things that he said to ask for? I mean, he says, look, if you'll cry out for discernment, right, and search for her as for hidden treasures, speaking of understanding. When's the last time that you sought out understanding? And when I say that, say it's a passage of scripture that you don't really understand, or a way that God is dealing with you in your walk, and you just don't really understand. Right? There's many times we do. We throw our hands up and say, God, I don't understand. Sometimes we'll use and we probably all heard it or said it, and we say, well, look, I'll figure it out when I get there. Talking about when we get to heaven, I'll figure it out then. Now, that's true. Both of those can be true. You can say, I don't understand, and I'm just going to trust God. Yes, and sometimes that's exactly what we have to do. But when do we say that, no, that's not enough? When do we say that's not a good enough answer? And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I don't mean it in a way that we're upset with God like that. But what we say is, God, no, that's not good enough for me to say I just don't understand. God, I desire to understand. I desire to have some wisdom with this. Now, there's times where God will say, that's not for you to know. And there's other times where he's saying, I'm so glad that you asked. Now that you asked, let me teach you a little bit more. You realize that every time we learn, every time we learn a little bit more and then we ask for more, God gives us more. Right? To whom much is given, much will be expected. Too many of us are happy with the little that we have, and we don't do much with it, so that's why we can't get anything else. It's like we're going to hold on to this one little nugget of truth that we have, and that's good enough. But when do we say, no, that's not enough? Right? Anybody that's on a treasure hunt, right? It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor already. What makes them go on the treasure hunt? Because they realize the worth of what they're seeking. And today, if you will realize the worth of what you're seeking, when you're seeking to know God, seeking to know him better, that is the beginning. He said, that's when you'll understand, when you know the worth. When you know the worth, you'll seek her out like silver. You'll seek out understanding just like it was a treasure. Because when you know its worth, you'll give it the time and the energy that it takes, that it requires to gain. Again, you can't do it in your own strength. You can't just manufacture it on your own. And we'll even look at that tomorrow in chapter 3. But today, just that simple question. Will you search him to know him better? Will you do that today? God bless you, and I pray you have a great, great day.